I noticed the pattern with a lot of these scammer types, like Andy Elliott, um, guys of that nature. These sales guys, financial gurus, all selling you some kind of product and course.
Mm.
They're all on TRT, and I feel like that kind of it almost keeps them high all the time, so they never have to come down where they might actually get introspective and like look inward and think like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And I feel like it might be I feel like it's a little bit dangerous, or hell, even like Andrew Huberman, guys on TRT, and he's out here, pretending to be this science guy, meanwhile, pushing supplements that are known scams by some guy. The owner of AG1 is actually on the run from massive real estate fraud in New Zealand,
Oh,
and of course
really?
Andrew Huberman's out there. Oh yeah, and Andrew Huberman's out promoting that. And then I mean,
At
for a
some
while he
point,
was
I need to
mocking.
look into the
Yeah.
AG1 thing because I know a doctor who works with AG1 without getting too into the details there, but he works high up in AG1. And anytime I've talked to him, he seems like a good guy. And then Peter Tia is pretty heavily associated with AG1,
Mhm.
and then Huberman as well. But then I'm hearing all this stuff about nonsense with AG1. It's not something I've looked into, so I can't personally comment on it. And I've never taken AG1, but it is interesting. I'm really not sure. I'd be interested if somebody comments below if they have looked into that, general thoughts on it. Because my general I mean, my general stance with Peter Tia is I like a lot of his information. But there are a couple things like that where I'm like, oh, I don't know about the association there.
Yeah, I'll send you some links to this journalist who's done a lot of research on that. It's pretty interesting. And yeah, I mean that he's got all the details, including I forget the fellow's name, but the gentleman's on the run from the law in New Zealand for
Well,
some sort of massive real estate fraud there. And yeah, he's kind of got the dirt on Huberman. Not that there's anything like you catch Huberman doing anything wrong. It's just this guy is promoting himself as this objective science guy, and then just not looking at an overpriced powder that just doesn't has not been shown in any sort of you know in any kind of actual scientific manner to actually have any particular benefit. I mean,
hmm.
it's probably a good. I mean, the consensus is it's probably a fairly good multivitamin as multivitamins go, but you're not going to get anything remotely close to like the purported value. And it gets kind of where that gets really hairy. I actually did a. I think you probably like Lane, but I did a takedown of Lane a while back, which heavily featured how he's buddy buddy with Huberman, but then goes after people who do the exact same thing, except with animal based powders. Right? He loves going after Saladino, and I don't like Saladino. I think Saladino's an idiot, but he likes to pick on easy targets like Saladino, and he'll go after Saladino for selling the organ pills all day.
Right.
But then you got Huberman out here selling. I looked at it's even more overpriced plant pills. That it's the exact same thing, just a different version.
What
And
makes you think I would like Lane?
oh, he's science based.
He's what?
I don't know if you like Lane. Maybe you don't.
Oh,
I can't
science
see how
based.
anyone would like him. He's kind of abrasive, but yeah, so it's very he's the guru buster, the guy who goes after any charlatan selling anything that's not scientifically backed, and any carnivore. Not that I'm pro carnivore. I think in most cases there are a few exceptions. I don't like. I think in most cases they're just you know doing dumb shit for the gram. But anyone who's not affiliated with him wants to promote some overpriced powder, he's going to go after them and talk about how they're charlatans. But then you have the biggest charlatan of them all selling overpriced plant powder, and oh yeah, now no, this guy's legit. Clout
I
chasing.
think,
But
unfortunately, this is very common in the fitness industry. Just for the record, I have no personal issues with Lane. I've had him on the podcast before. We've had good conversations. So, the one-on-one interactions and everything were fine. What I do see with him and almost anybody in the industry really is everybody, of course, wants to level up. And so when they can make an association with somebody that maybe has more clout than them, they will do that. And so some very obvious examples. So Lane Norton for sure spoke very negatively on Joe Rogan, not inappropriately. There was things that Joe Rogan would say or do that were kind of ridiculous, and Lane would call him out on it and do this. Well, then lo and behold, he gets on the Joe Rogan podcast, and now it's like he's his best friend, and he won't say anything negative about him, etc. And even Peter T with Huberman, I am sure that Peter T would have some significantly negative things to say about Huberman and some of the stuff he's espoused. But Huberman had a bigger platform than Peter T, and now they're buddies and do science reviews and whatnot as well. I think even Derek from More Plays More Dates had negative things to say about Rogan. That one I would maybe I don't know too much of the details, so I would be a little cautious to say that. And I think in general, though, you do see that where if somebody's got again more power than somebody else, they will then try to be friends and buddy with them for that association. So I don't have any. I'm not at all surprised to hear that, when Lane could make it associated with Huberman, who basically had this kind of rise to stardom over a couple of years, that he would then not call out some of the nonsense that he's done, and he has actually pushed back on some of Huberman's stuff, but just in general, and it makes sense. I mean, even if like if a friend of mine in the industry says something I disagreed with, I'm probably not going to make a video blasting them on it. Maybe I'll just have like a conversation with them. But unfortunately, you do see that very strong bias in a lot of instances.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal if it weren't for the fact that he's just kind of made his name as I am the guy who calls out the scams, right? So
Mhm.
then, so it makes him kind of a. I mean, it almost becomes a form of corruption. Like if that's not your thing, then there's not as much expectation that anybody that you are are cool with is legit, right? If you're just somebody who's out talking about your particular exercise style, your particular thing that okay, well there's no expectation, right? But then if you made yourself the guru buster, the scam buster, then by who you associate with or don't, and who you criticize and who you don't has more implications, I think. And with somebody like Rogan, it's like his whole thing is he's kind of a neutral space. He'll talk to anybody, and
Mhm.
that's kind of the you don't expect him to know everything he's talking about. He doesn't try to know everything.
Sure.
He's kind of he's not a scientist. He's a martial arts guy and a comedian. I mean, I like watching a show. I mean, I like when he talks about the gorilla coming out of the woods at you. That's always kind of it's fun talk, right? You like talking about like grizzly bears and gorillas and Bigfoot and aliens and all that stuff. It's fun, but you don't expect him to be like you don't expect him to be a
Sure.
scientist because that's not what he does. But then you get somebody who's who's an actual scientist like Huberman. Okay, now there's an expectation that you're going to be on point with what you say.
Sure.
So then if you're not, that's kind of like the issue with well, I mean a lot of these people like Carnivore MD, Saladino. I
Yeah.
mean that's he's not just some lunatic running around shirtless in the Whole Foods eating raw meat. He's
Right.
claiming that all his stuff is actually coming from more of a medical background,
Right.
and that's not to say that and there's a right way to do that. What's this? Uh, Sean Baker,
John Baker. Yeah.
another MD. He does a much better job of it because he's not out here just saying crazy things and doing crazy things and
Right.
prescribing this to everyone. He kind of sticks. He doesn't make wild claims. He is more professional about it, and that works fine. I'm going on tangents. This is getting probably way away from where I want it to be, but
Sure.
where I was trying to go with all this anyway, I feel like Andrew Huberman's TRT dose may help him not to have those like introspective moments where he like questions what am I doing. Instead, it's just kind of the high of like money, success, like ridiculous, like absurd numbers of women that like, seriously, don't you get isn't that too much effort after a while? I would definitely stop with like I would I would even without morals, I would not want to put that much effort in. But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like having so many high level, tastemakers and gurus and people that everyone, sources of information just on this stuff, like I feel like it's gonna lead to just like a lot of kind of tombstone courage as a society. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're not having those moments where you actually stop and think, which even a high T natural guy is going to have. So that's something that concerns me. Sorry, man. I just completely derailed everything with all
No,
that.
no, it's
Um,
interesting though, because I mean, but see, even that I would just caution some people against because, and this is one of the issues with the rhetoric that goes around with TRT